In 1941, America sent over Hollywood heartthrob Douglas Fairbanks Jr. as part of its good neighbor policy, in order to persuade Argentina to align its policies with America's. This proved an immense disaster from the minute Fairbanks Jr. stepped foot onto the warm soil of Argentina, where he was met with suspicion from the Argentine government, who suspected him of not only being a spy, but also a culturally incompetent oaf. The mishap reached its climax when Fairbanks Jr. reacted to a firecracker going off by ducking in panic, leading the Argentine media to mock him and the US government to ship him back to the US as quickly as possible. His arrival home was accompanied by an open letter from the Argentinian government that detailed how America should learn to properly represent and honor Argentina's culture. Variety responded to this by declaring the whole thing a smashing success. What do you see? Or, more importantly, what do you not see? What you see is the tango, at least the way that Hollywood represented it. This was the way that Argentina filmed the tango. Of course, dance in Argentina didn't always look like this. Before tango, there was the candombe. It wasn't danced on hard ballroom floors, but on the soft and fertile earth of Argentina and Uruguay. Its roots came not from the natives, nor the European immigrants who colonized the land, but from the slaves those immigrants brought from West Africa. That dance gave birth to more dances, the milonga, the canyengue, and eventually, the tango. The new rhythms, the new land, and the new dances attracted more immigrants for Argentina, including Syrians, Italians, Jews, and Germans. They brought with them European inventions, tools, instruments, and perhaps most importantly, film had been in Argentina since 1896, and it wasn't long before the technological immigrant was enthusiastically embraced by the people, who used it to create things such as the first feature-length animated film, unfortunately lost to time. Still, Hollywood's silent films were the dominant form. However, this was going to change when another technological innovation came along. Synchronized audio meant that the one-size-fits-all model of silent filmmaking Hollywood had pioneered would no longer prove successful. Latin American audiences expected movies to speak their language, and Hollywood films were about as good as that as Fireworks Kid was at persuading political practices. This opened the way for Argentinian innovators, and by 1939, Argentina was the largest producer of Spanish-language films in the world. The impact they had on the world was a challenge to the United States, which led the United States to challenge them. You see, the United States wanted to make sure Argentina joined the Allies in World War II, but Argentina was passionately neutral, as many of its citizens were Italian or of Italian descent, and most of its trading was done with Italian and German sources, especially after the fireworks fiasco. In response, the United States cut off Argentina's film supply, limiting Argentina's ability to spread influence and express itself. Perón, president of Argentina, reacted by putting into place protectionist measures for Argentina's film scene, and making sure certain security measures were taken. This also entailed an amount of suppression of certain ideas in film. Certain things could be shown, but certain things should be lost. Eventually, groups in Argentina decided that Perón himself should be censored and lost to history, and so the era of Tango Cinema was put to a close. Tango went from being danced to being used to cover the screams of people being tortured to eventually banned. The ground was no longer pounded with fertile rhythms, but still, new generations grew, bans were lifted, and people wanted to connect with their roots, with their tango. The obvious idea would be to simply watch the old tango films, but the movies that filmed tango weren't so much the truth, but rather the truth that those with power wanted you to see. It wasn't about what was on screen. It was about what was not on screen, all of the unapproved history. However, there were other movies. From the beginning, individuals like black filmmaker Jose Agustin Ferreira had access to film cameras. He filmed the Argentina he saw. Octavio Schettino and Fernando Solanas' The Hour of the Furnace showed audiences reality. To draw at last a comparison between tango and cinema, here is a clip from Alex Krebs, an American tango dancer who traveled to Argentina in the late 1990s. I dance my own tango. The more you try to copy, the less true you are to tango music, to yourself. If we only look at studio films for history, we will not find history. We must look at those who are individuals, those who are independent, for the truth. Douglas Fairbanks Sr., the father of his firework-fearing son, made a 1927 film set in Argentina called The Gaucho. Its story consisted of an Argentine gaucho, portrayed by a wealthy American who assembles other gauchos, these played by Mexican Americans, to save an innocent woman in a Hollywood backlot. The film was not historically accurate. Fairbanks told the Los Angeles Record that he intended to show the South Americans as we think of them, rather than as they are. The film was screened in Argentina not long after it was made. It was a smashing success, setting the Fairbanks family up for a long history with the nation of Argentina.